Update. I believe my parents resent me for starting my own family. Original post. I had somewhat of a revelation this weekend. I'm still processing how I feel about it and considering if I should confront my parents. Anyway, I, 40 male, came from a big family. I'm the second oldest of 9 kids. My older sister Jane is just a year older than me. There is a 6-year gap between me and the next sibling. Then my mom had a kid every 2 to 3 years. Since Jane and I were the oldest, we always helped with the little kids and the chores around the house. In fact, it was common for my parents and other adults to refer to us as Jane and Opie and the kids. It's like Jane and I were not considered children. It's more like we were 2 other adults living in the house. We were homeschooled, so we were home all the time. Part of my job is that I would wake up, make breakfast for the kids, then get them started with their school or activities before I started my own schoolwork. Jane would sleep in because she was more of a night owl, and it was her job to help at night with the baby because there was always a baby. Jane and I did most of the chores around the house. We took turns either cleaning the kitchen or doing the laundry, of which there was a lot. I did all the guy stuff, like mowing the yard and taking out the trash. As I got older, I would delegate some of these chores to my younger brothers, but it was still my responsibility to make sure it got done. Once I was old enough to drive, I would run errands and take the kids everywhere. I can't tell you how many times I would take the kids to things like playdates or doctor's appointments. I would often tuck the kids in bed and tell them stories. To me, these things were all just normal, but looking back on it, I was more like a second dad to the kids than a brother. Jane and I did have a lot of freedom as teenagers to go out with our friends if the chores were done. We didn't have cell phones back then. If we wanted to go out, we would just tell our parents we were going, and they didn't care, as long as we were back by the next morning. I moved out when I was 20, but I still spent a lot of time at my parents', and one of my younger siblings was almost always at my house. One brother, JJ, pretty much lived with me since he was 14 because he and our mom didn't get along. When JJ was 17, he got in a wreck and he called me instead of calling dad because I was just the one who handled those kinds of things. During all of this time, my parents always talked about how important it was for Jane and I to help with the kids because they were so busy with their ministry. I can't count how many times I had to drop what I was doing to take care of something because mom or dad were counseling someone. Sorry, I feel like I'm rambling. I hope I have painted an accurate picture of my childhood. Let's move on. I had not really dated much, but when I was 25, I met and started dating Anne. We fell in love fast and got married less than a year later. My younger siblings love Anne. She's a great cook and hostess. Our house became the hangout spot. My younger siblings even started calling her Mama Anne, something they still do to this day. We have now been married 15 years and have 2 kids of our own. My mom and Jane, though, did not like Anne. Jane and Anne get along okay now, but Anne and my mom do not have a good relationship. I never understood why, but I think I have finally figured out it's because they see it as Anne having taken me away. As Anne and I focused on our relationship and started a family, I spent less and less time doing things for my parents. My dad liked Anne at first, but over the past few years, their relationship has soured. Throughout the years, my dad has made comments to me about keeping up my responsibilities. One time he called me about one of the younger kids who had gotten in a fight with my mom and said, "You better get your brother and change his attitude. It's not okay how he treated your mom, and you were going to make him apologize." A few years ago, Anne and I set some boundaries with my parents, telling them we were not going to raise or discipline their kids. Our home is always open to my siblings, but we no longer let my parents try and use us to straighten them up. My parents have not taken this well. About a year ago, Anne injured her foot and couldn't walk for a while. Just as she was getting better, I was diagnosed with kidney disease, which then turned into kidney failure. I've had several surgeries with another one coming in a few weeks. It's been a rough year, and during this time, my parents have not only refused to help, they have actively made things harder for us. Things like promising to help with our kids but then canceling at the last minute, usually because something ministry-related came up. Then recently, my sister-in-law who lives in another state had a baby, and my mom has been staying with her and helping for the past 6 weeks. My sister-in-law has said that mom is a godsend and is so wonderful. My dad has gone to help every weekend. This hurts me because my mom wouldn't give us a single night to help with our youngest when he was born. Anyway, I'm sorry this post has turned out longer than I thought it would. I needed to get some of this off my chest. This weekend, I was talking to another sister and telling her how I don't understand why mom and dad don't treat me like they do the rest of the kids. Even Jane. It's like I'm not one of their children. And it just kind of hit me that they resent me for getting married and starting my own family and leaving them to raise their own kids. Part of me is relieved to finally realize why they treat me like they do, and part of me is sad. I'm kind of scared about this upcoming surgery, and I really wish I had a parent I could talk to about it. But I don't feel like I have parents, just some people that I co-parented my siblings with. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your parents used religion as an excuse not to parent. Extremely bad parenting, and it was wrong expecting you to do the job they should have been doing. Your parents need a wake-up call about their selfishness. Hit them hard with what they have done wrong, then go no contact, as you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. That's hard to hear, but you might be right. Those selfish, horrible people who used and enslaved you do not deserve to have a relationship with you. How nice it would be if their congregation heard about how they treated you as a slave and now won't lift a finger to help you. How unchristian of them. You should write a book. Maybe your younger siblings can help you, where your own parents failed you. I had a friend in a family of 10 kids. They were very religious, but not homeschooling. I'm not even against homeschooling. It's just that a lot of parents don't follow through and just use the kids for errands at home. Anyway, the 2 oldest were the caretakers for the rest. The oldest left the family and they have cut her off. I think you are absolutely correct in assessing their view. I was the oldest of 9 in a homeschooling family, and I'm honestly surprised that Opie was just as much a caretaker as Jane. In many families like mine, and I knew a bunch of them many even bigger than mine, the oldest male is a magical unicorn being who can do whatever he wants and be supported, while the oldest female deals with absurd expectations of living their lives as a martyr for the sake of their family's well-being. I don't wish the experience Opie described on anyone. However, the thing I noticed that surprised me is that, at least his parents were equally crappy to both Opie and Jane. I'm so sorry, Opie. It's also unfair. Your parents basically cranked out babies for you and Jane to raise, while they got to look pious with their ministry. But at least your siblings love and value you. You and Anne sound wonderful. Anne is the most amazing person ever. I love her so much. I think she is more of a mom to my siblings than our mom ever was. Now for the update. Thanks to everyone who engaged with my last post. It has been therapeutic. This post is a brief update and then I will answer some questions. So, I spoke with my wife Anne about it last night. I said something along the lines of, I've realized that my parents resent me for starting my own family and not helping them as much, and that is why they treat me so differently. And I think you've been trying to gently tell me this for years, but I was too dense to get it. We were sitting in the bed at a time, and she leaned over and patted me on the head and said, "You are so pretty." I laughed for like 10 minutes. It was a great emotional release. A lot of you said she sounds wonderful, and she really is. I just can't express how much I love her. About Jane, my older sister. Jane did get married and start a family about 2 years after I did. Jane and I had a falling out and didn't speak for several years, but we are okay now, just not very close. Our falling out was more about religion than anything. She is very religious like my parents, while I am not. I am religious and we attend church, but it's not our whole life like it is for my parents and Jane. Younger siblings. The youngest is 22, so they are all adults now. The second to the youngest passed away several years ago, so there are 8 of us now. I am very close with all of my younger siblings. They still come hang out at my house all the time and they are all great aunts and uncles to my kids. All of them, including Jane, are upset with how my parents treated me this past year. Help with my kids. While I am disappointed in my parents for not helping, I do not need their help. Anne and I have close friends, plus we both have siblings that help. Anne's parents live far away, but they help when they can. We really are okay, and feel very blessed and loved with all the help we have received. Therapy. Part of my kidney treatment plan includes access to a therapist and I love her. She has been great in helping me learn to live with an illness. I'm not sure if she's the right person to speak with about my parents, but I will ask her and see if she can refer someone if not. I will wait until after my surgery to bring this up, as I need to just focus on that right now. Setting boundaries. When I say my parents won't help, it's not that they say they won't help. It's that they offer to help, and then they either bail at the last minute or they change the plan so much that it causes Ann and I a lot of stress. A few months ago, Ann was sick and my mother offered to pick our kids up from school. It's a long story, but she kept changing things and making it very complicated, and my youngest ended up being left alone for a little while and he got scared. After that, I had a harsh talk with my parents and told them how disappointed I was in them and how I needed to focus on my health and they were making things worse. I told them they are not allowed to take my kids anywhere and they are not allowed to just drop by at my house, and in fact, they were not even allowed to offer to help. Because my mom doesn't take no for an answer and will nag until she wears me down. My parents were mad about this, but all 7 of my siblings took my side and rallied about me, and so my parents have respected that so far. Going no contact. A lot of people recommended going no contact, but I don't want that. I still love my parents, even though they have not been great parents. My kids love them too, and I don't want to take that away. They're good grandparents when they show up. I don't think my parents are awful people. I think they had this vision of how they wanted to have this big family and this big ministry, and I think they just didn't realize the responsibilities they put on Jane and I. I have spoken to them in the past and expressed how it was messed up that they put so much on us as kids, and they have apologized. Putting my parents on blast at their church. Several people recommended going to their church and telling people how they have treated me. You don't understand this church. They would praise my parents for putting God and the ministry above everything else. These super religious people are crazy. I guess that's it for now. My surgery is in less than 2 weeks, so I'm going to focus on that. I'm going to put this thing with my parents on the back burner, and later I will decide what, if anything, I'm going to do. Thanks again to everyone for your comments. It has really helped me work through some feelings. Make sure you have a will set up and your wife is POA, and that in no way if you pass after the surgery that your parents can claim anything of yours, including access to your children. Great advice. We got a will a few years ago. Good. I'm sorry that you have to think about that, but at least you're prepared. I hope the surgery goes well and you feel better. Not a therapist myself, but rather integrated with someone dealing with issues. You may want to bring this up with her just to give her background information and get the referral process started. A simple, I know we don't have time to deal with this now, but some background information on me is ... Once we get to a slightly less busy time, I'd like to get a referral to someone appropriate for this issue. Knowing about these issues may impact how they deal with your current issues, and referrals can take forever to process. Okay, I will do that. I'm meeting with her on Monday. I will bring it up. Thanks. I'm going to say something you should repeat to your therapist. Having part-time good parents mean they were all the time bad parents. Now, just repeat that to your therapist and they will understand. Let me explain. If you're a parent, you don't get time off or get to turn it off just because it's inconvenient. Think about your own life. You have a serious illness. Have you ever slacked off in your care of your kids? Probably not. It might have changed how you did things, but you were still a good parent 99% of the time. 1% for times when we mess up. I hate to say this, but those good parent moments were nothing more than show. It's a form of gaslighting. Last story. My mom invoiced me and my sister for the expenses of raising us. Our household always revolved around money, even though my mom made more than enough money and we are not struggling by any means. She complained about every single thing she had to buy for us. Everything. Food, clothes, medical expenses, toys, laptops and phones, school costs, everything. We always knew exactly how much we were costing her, and we didn't dare ask for unnecessary things like leisure activities or expensive toys or hobby supplies. We started working very young, and she manipulated and guilted us to give her all the money we earned to pay off what we owed. When I turned 18, she completely cut me off financially, but kindly offered to let me rent my bedroom out for her and sent me an invoice of every cent I've ever cost her, totaling over $700,000. She billed me for Christmas and birthday presents. She even billed me for her medical expenses for the pregnancy and delivery. and wanted me to back pay rent to live in the house from birth. She did the same to my sister 2 years later when she turned 18. We were supposed to pay her back over time, starting the day we turned 18. Both of us were still dealing with a lot of internalized guilt from her constant manipulation, so we actually did pay for a while. Aside from necessary expenses, our entire paychecks were going to her. We rented our bedrooms in her house, and she separated her food, cleaning supplies, cookware and tableware etc. from ours, and charged us to use them. She generously included the use of the household appliances in our rent. It wasn't until I was 21 and my sister was 19 that enough people had told us this whole arrangement was unhinged that we finally snapped out of it. We moved out together and have stopped paying our mom or even contacting her at all. I'm glad you and your sister finally moved out. People like this amaze me. Why even have children? You didn't ask to be brought into this world. You owe her nothing. Did the mom have to pay back her mom, Opie's grandmother, for being erased? What kind of insane logic is this? Cripple your kids with debt from day dot is a surefire way to teach them good monetary skills later in life? Or just straight up so obsessed with money they charge everyone and anyone? Wait to set an example. Right, it seems she needs to be met with the same type of treatment. Speak to a lawyer and find out how much roughly you could sue her for damages to your mental health and emotional well-being. You did not ask to be born, nor did you ask for any presents or other things she bought. Go through the list and work out how much the therapy would be to put right the mental anguish she has caused you over the years. Find out what your state says she should provide you with for the 18 years, and find out where you stand exactly. Then present a united front to her with a parcel of documents for her to digest at her leisure. I would put money on the fact it could be over the $1 million mark. Watch her face fold and tell her to have a nice life. We will call it even. Every time she has said things like that, she has taken a toll on your health, and within the law, she could be made to pay. The last thing she would expect is that. I wish you both a lovely life the heck away from her negative crap. We don't have enough money to sue, and she knows that. She's a lawyer, so I can't imagine a world where we'd win this kind of lawsuit against her. Update. Am I the a-hole for getting a job to get out of taking care of my husband's autistic niece? Original post. My husband, 30 male, became the legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17 female, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a very physically and mentally demanding field, and I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family, and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into the marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage. Then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field which allows remote work so that I'm not bored out of my mind. My sister-in-law was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues, including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorder like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he doesn't. Since I'm working from home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing the food at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end, and it is just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She's very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she's used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to be home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. So I went up to my room and told him I am not dealing with this anymore. I came home hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called me heartless and irresponsible. I told him I have had enough of both of their ungrateful behavior and told him that I am going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back. and he told me that my stunt had forced him to all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back, but I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back, and it starts next Monday. It is in office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me but his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I'm asking judgment from impartial strangers. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your husband likes being the hero but doesn't have a clue as to how to do the actual work, so he just left it all to you. You have been sorely taken advantage of, and I don't think you are qualified to handle this level of need. Your niece needs expert help. And by referring to your need for a break as a stunt, it's clear he views you as having had a temper tantrum, and he has graciously allowed you to get over your snit but expects compliance from now on. It has also given you a preview of what parenthood will be. You do the work, he gets to enjoy the hour or two of happy, fed and bathed child that he can play with and hand back. Taking care of a special needs child requires some serious work. Opie's husband just wants the good things about having a child, but hands all of the real work to her. He told her he would be the one to take care of her completely, but flipped out when the struggle begins. Caretaker burnout is very real, and referring to Opie's need for a break as a stunt shows just how little he respects and appreciates her work, as well as his limited understanding of what it takes to care for a special needs child. Opie, you're not heartless or irresponsible. You took care of a child that weren't your responsibility. That alone makes you far better than your hubby. You were literally injured taking care of her, but all he cares about is how you didn't do what he promised to do? Get your job back. He's her legal guardian. He has to and will take care of her. He's being massively ungrateful. I feel bad for your husband's niece. Hopefully she gets the help and care she needs. Info. Are you planning on still being married to him? At the moment, no. I'm just trying to see what happens next. But if he doesn't find a solution that expects me to be a full-time carer, then no, I would walk away. Walk away? He will tell you whatever he needs to tell you to make you stay, like you did the first time. And then you will again find yourself being slowly manipulated into the caretaker role. He already know that. That marriage cannot be salvaged. It won't work if your niece stays. And it won't work again if your niece is placed in a home. This is over. He will resent you, and you have found out you cannot trust him. There is no more basis for a relationship. Yikes. That's true. How sad. 15 years of dating and 1 year married just to be ruined by family rubbish. True. They can't stay together if the disabled kid is there, and he won't forgive her if he has to send a kid to a care facility. Poor Opie. And now for the update. A lot of people were messaging me for an update, so here goes. I wish I could say things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nannies/caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 9 to 6 during weekdays. One day, she ended up saying she could not make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he couldn't miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused, and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic, gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. So I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call CPS, and once they get there, I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back, and this turned into a big fight, and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple of weeks for work and I could not find my passport. I'm a very organized person and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit, and he knew that I would not stay even if he had asked me. I finally kicked them both out of my house and I told him I would call the police if he came near me again. My house is a premarital asset, thank God for that. Then told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into a mess, as neither of them were living there when the worker showed up, and a social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So all in all, she was not impressed with our BS. He came by 2 days ago and told me that he ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That doesn't qualify according to welfare norms. So he ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and niece stay until they figure it out, or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there is no way he can afford rent and a carer, and begged me. I told him that I could never forgive what he did. He knew my past with my father, and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested they could move in and we can work on this at a couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again, and that it was over. He asked me if he could get his parents to take in Denise, or even relinquished her care to the state, so I would give him another chance. I think months of worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is niece, it was actually him. He didn't ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnt out. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, niece, and I may have adapted and become a family if he hadn't made a wrong choice at my expense, at every turn. I told him to get out of my house, that it was over and I never want to see any of them ever again. I still don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still have not started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I am taking a break as it had been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks. It's easy to be the selfless hero caring for the poor orphan child when you don't have to actually do a single damn thing. I also noticed that not a single one of his relatives who are criticizing her for being selfish apparently offered to lift a finger until she finally kicked him out. Honestly, it's probably their self-preservation instinct kicking in. If they can guilt someone else into taking care of Denise, they don't have to. Most people cannot take care of a person like this in the US, whether they want to or not. It basically precludes working, and you kind of have to work. I actually consider this a very happy ending for Opie. Divorce is not easy, but she absolutely made a right decision. I read the original post and I'm glad to see the update. That husband is a piece of work. It's not happy at all for Denise, but that's not Opie's fault. I hope Denise receives the support she deserves. To be honest, I'm glad it blew up in his face. Totally deserved. Hope he enjoys the fruits of his non-labor and poor, harmful decision-making. She reverse Uno the heck out of him, and I'm here for it. One of the major lessons from this mess is make a plan for your death. Opie's sister-in-law should have had a plan in place. I know it's a terrible thing to think about it, but look what happens when you don't. I have 2 disabled kids, and we have a life plan for them that includes custody and financials. There are pro bono lawyers who will work with families. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son's father never mind and that he isn't meeting his kid? My son is 12 and his father has never met him. We had gone to court when my son was like 1. And he at that point said he wasn't ready to be a father and ultimately wanted nothing to do with our child. I was awarded visitation at my own discretion and child support. Well, last year he had reached out completely random on Facebook and said he was ready to meet our kid and said that he turned his life around and regrets every single day of not being here. At this point, he spoke to our son, but in the end my son decided he wasn't ready to meet him yet. Not a big deal really. I mean, his father was angry and tried blaming me at first, but later dropped it and we hadn't heard from him since. Well, he just reached out again about a week and a half ago, and at this point my son was ready to meet him. We made a plan and everything was great. He was being super attentive and checking in every single day. He appeared to be really involved, and everything was truly great. However, he calls me last night, and I don't know if he was drinking or what was up with his sudden attitude, but he was being nasty and telling me, "I will take the boy from you if you do anything that I don't agree with." He was accusing me of spending the child support money on myself despite me giving him no reason to think this. I told him to stop speaking to me like that, and he said it a few more times before I finally snapped and said, "You know what? Never mind. I'm not bringing my son to meet you when you were telling me you were taking him from me. You're not meeting him," and hung up. I didn't realize my son heard the whole thing. He was standing on the other side of the door and I was unaware. He is obviously on my side, but definitely a bit bummed. and just keeps saying he can't believe his dad had the audacity to treat me like that, and kept saying, "Mom, I want you to know that I would always choose you even if he brought you to court." And it was incredibly sad. I reached out to a friend today because this is seriously mentally destroying me, because I know deep down my son still wants to meet him. And my friend basically told me that I was an a-hole and that I had no right to keep my kid from him. Even went on to say, "So what if it takes him? The cops would find him and charge him with kidnapping, and then your son would know what he's dealing with. But until then, stop depriving your son. Am I the a-hole?" Now for the top comments. What is wrong with your friend? This man is clearly unstable and just made a credible threat to kidnap your child. The cops would find him and charge him with kidnapping. Like, has your friend met any police? It could take days, even weeks to find him. What if he was hiding? What if he left town? Your friend is saying it's okay to gamble your son's safety, and if he gets abducted, it'll be fine. Who cares about the mental harm that'll inflict on him or the physical harm an unstable man could do to him? Not the a-hole times infinity. Your friend needs to stop thinking of human lives like objects. Right? Like, what does it matter if your child gets kidnapped? Also, some kidnapped kids are never recovered. Some are unalived. Seriously, ditch the friend and keep doing what you're doing. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your friend is an idiot who doesn't know what she's talking about. My cousins got kidnapped by their father, and he took them out of the country until he got sick of them. The police did absolutely nothing. You did the right thing, and you should probably dump that friend. The same thing happened to my cousins. It took my aunt 2 years and a series of very expensive lawyers to get them back. Yep, had a friend who had his wife served with divorce papers because he was extremely unhappy in the marriage. Counseling wasn't helping, and he didn't want to be a cheater. Within 6 hours of her being served, she and his child went missing. The police said it was a civil matter. She went to a neighboring state and took our state 2 years to find her. During that time, his son forgot him and another man was daddy. He ended up giving his parental rights because he talked to a child psychologist who said it could be traumatizing for the child to be forced on a stranger, even if he is the father. Last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to answer my sister's video call so she can see her baby?" Context. My sister had a planned pregnancy that involves having the baby daddy not being around and is determined to be an independent mom. She gave birth, had to give up her lease and move in with us at a different state. Not a short amount of time after, she managed to get her dream job, knowing that she still has her 6-month-old baby to take care of. This job was not a limited time position and is always hiring in masses every few months or so. She took the job, had to relocate to another state and left us with her baby. I quit my work before she came, so she expected me to take care of her baby. She calls every day to see her baby, and at first that's not an issue to me. But at some point, it just became very depressing for me that this past few months, all I have been doing is taking care of her baby while her IG stories are just her having fun on her job and partying at clubs on her day offs. She does come home once a while when she feels like it to see her baby. Mind you, with her line of work, she's able to fly freely to other states without any expense on her behalf. Recently, I expressed what I felt about watching her baby and she called me rude and selfish, and that it was my fault for not having a job. And in her own words, "You're family, you're supposed to help me out." Mind you, I did have some job offers, but could not take them due to the fact that the hours I have to work is the hours that I have to watch the baby. I can't just leave the baby unattended. She then called us, her family, screwed up family, because I did not answer her calls. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Call CPS and see about getting actual guardianship of this baby so that way you can make decisions and possibly apply for assistance with childcare. Like child support, you can force her to pay for a nanny or daycare. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, and you should involve the authorities. Basically, she has abandoned her baby. It doesn't matter if you are family. Also, it might cause you trouble legally. Are you this baby's guardian? What rights do you have or does she have? It's really complicated and varies by state, so legal advice is essential. Some places, an occasional phone call may count as contact. Other than whatever emotional support we can give OP, this is way beyond forum's pay grade. OP, please take care of yourself and please seek legal advice on your options and how to move forward. If you haven't already started keeping a journal of visits, contact, financial support, and baby-related costs you are paying, begin immediately. Wow, just occurred to me that you need to get legal advice ASAP about denying contact, Zoom, phone calls, etc. I don't mean to suggest it could be a crime, but you want to make certain you're in the clear if you deny contact.